Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, hang out with these nerds.
I'm Nerdarchy Ryan.
Nerdarchy Ted.
And what do you do when your players are overcome by monster madness?
If you have a GM 911, you can send that to us over at nerdarchy.com in the GM 911 section of our forums, or you can send us an email to nerdarchy@gmail.com.
See, that Ted didn't even know where to send it. We don't know where the GM 911's going.
Just put it so many places.
I don't know. So, we've got the DM, who is...
Masaki.
Masaki is running a game for his players, and they had a player leave, so they kind of switched gears and went to like a silly campaign where they're playing monsters.
Yeah, we're playing monsters
that are incompetent.
Yeah, sort of, or maybe the players like had bad rolls.
That could be our interpretation, but essentially they're playing a silly game where they're monsters, and the players are really enjoying it. Turns out that the player isn't coming back, or at least not for a long time. He wants to transition back to a normal game. And the player's like, but I want to play monsters.
Well, first of all, it makes me think of the book Grunts, which is this basically, it's from the bad guy's perspective of being the lackey, being minions, and always getting stuck working for incompetent villains and their orcs. It kind of makes me think of that, and like I'm kind of with the players. It sounds like it's a fun game and they're having a good time with it. This is the problem, like where the group has to come together and decide what they all want to do as a group. Here's the thing, too. Unfortunately, as the GM, you should really play a game that you want to play, too. I'm a very strong proponent of that. I've heard other people, well, you just put the game out that your players want to play, but if you're not feeling it...
you're not into it.
It's like a 50-50, like where you guys can hit the intersection of like most enjoyment for most people.
So what I would do in this situation, if the DM is not interested in playing monsters... and the players are not interested in
a serious
game, you put both games to the side and you say, okay, those games are done, and we talk about what we want to do, and you come to an agreeable term.
But the monster
monster game?
Yeah, there you go. But the monster game could be fun, and if Masaki can find fun in that, because your players are already enjoying themselves, then that's best case scenario. Or maybe if they're not going to love going back, if you're going to have an all-out mutiny on your hands with your players, then going back to the regular tone game might not be the best, and you might just hit the reset button.
Maybe one of your players will take over the GM in that game, and you can play a monster and be silly and disrupt their game.
There you go.
Well, yeah. It's one of the problems of let's put this game on hold. We have a long history of gaming. Before we were Nerdarchy.
We've got about 50 games on hold right now that we're never going back to.
How many times have we said, all right, this DM has gotten burned out or tired. Let's take a break and start a new campaign. How many games are out there floating that, like, oh, we're at this critical point?
Players are always going to be, and even GMs, are going to always be distracted by the new shiny, all right? The new shiny is the allure of the thing. It's like the grass is always greener, and you always want to play that new other thing.
So whatever your current player is, like, okay, that's where the enjoyment is. Like, I've got characters that I look back fondly, but... if Dave says, oh, do you want to pull this campaign out of retirement? Or Ryan says, you want to pull this game out of retirement? And I'd be like, well, but who do I have to stop playing to do that one?
There's always a trade-off. For Masaki, though, it's really tough because, like, if you're not really in love with the game you're running, eventually it's going to start to wear on you and show, and you're going to burn out.
Here's what you do. You basically just engineer a TPK, and in this way, through the plot device and the dice of the game, that campaign ended through the incompetency of these silly monsters, and then you have a clean slate, no guilt on your part, problem solved.
Or what if you're able to put together like an arc that's whether it's one session or the next 5 sessions that completes the campaign per se, right? Where the players can get to a point where they feel like they've done whatever it is they want to do, and you can end it clean.
Yeah, except for like, so say if like there's an orc and he gets to be head of a big orcish horde, he probably then wants to play the game where he runs the army of the orcs. And so I feel like it's just going to escalate.
The other thing that you could wind up doing is like it would require a little bit of panache, but if you could transition that silly game around to a more traditional gameplay without knowing the plot lines. I really don't know how to guide that machination. But if you can work that around to being a more traditional, then you might be able to gather them back into a more traditional game.
So I'm gonna kind of second half this whole discussion now. It kind of gets back to the idea of like different people play the game for different reasons. So my old roommate, like him and his friends would completely just have chuckle fuck games. Like they didn't run campaigns. They just fought monsters, killed stuff, took their loot, and that was that. That Masaki's group is that same exact group of players, but maybe they don't want to play a Lord of the Rings desperate fight sort of serious narrative. Maybe they want more off the wall zany adventures. Like, so maybe they're a younger group of players, because that's kind of a thing where like teenage players or like early 20s still might be in that mode of gaming. And even if you're in your 50s and enjoy that level of playing, more power to you. But it might be a breakdown of the sort of like what kind of game the GM wants to run and what everybody else sitting at the table wants to play.
You just have a group meeting and all discuss what exactly you want to do with the game, where you want to go. Everyone voice their opinion and how they feel, and hopefully you can come to a consensus. That's all you can really do.
Or again, have one of the other players step up to GM if they want to do that. But there's some instances where there's some groups of people like they want to play one type of game. I have no interest in playing that game, so I do not game with that group of people, because that's how they play and it's not how I play.
Right.
So sometimes it just breaks down to that. You guys, let us know in the comments below, how would you handle it? How have you handled it in the past? I know plenty of you guys have probably experienced this. While you're at it, like, share, and subscribe.
You can patronize us in a good way over on Patreon.
Or you can hang out with us over on Facebook.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.